Joining us this morning is three-time Olympian, multiple world champion and Commonwealth Games attendee, Sarah Jamieson. Sarah, thanks for joining us today at Hale Sport Podcast. We really appreciate you giving up your little bit of time.
Oh, thanks for having me on.
No worries. Now, joining me today here in my office is Martin Melody, who runs junior school sport. And between Martin and myself, Sarah, we'll hopefully learn a little bit about your career, what it was like to represent the country over such a long period of time, and then what advice you have for the kids that are at home listening.
Perfect.
So first question, now you grew up in Perth. Can you tell us a bit about the school you went to and particularly, I suppose, what sports you played growing up?
Yeah, so I grew up in Perth. I went to Perth College for high school in Mount Lawley, and yeah, I pretty much just played any sport that I could. I realised pretty early on that I could run, and I think we all like what we're good at. So I always pursued athletics from a pretty young age, but also just kept trying other stuff as well to keep my options open. I was definitely more of an individual sports person. I used to get really frustrated in a team, like if I felt like I didn't have control of what other people did. But I think it's really important to stay engaged in team sports. Loved my basketball at school, loved volleyball, hockey. I had three brothers growing up. They liked to play AFL, so I think if AFL women's had been around back in the day, I would have
had a crack,
been a good shot. I can still kick the ball pretty well with my 9-year-old son now, which he's rapt about.
Oh, excellent. Well, that's a lot of exposure to a lot of sports. But if I hone down on your junior athletic days, was there one specific performance which you still remember? You know what I mean? And why is it so special?
I remember being at primary school and there was an 800-metre race, just to sort of a faction sports day, and you had to be year 4 or above to go in it, and I was year 3, and I begged the PE teacher to be able to go into it, and he said, if you give me a note from your parents and they say it's okay, you can jump in. So, went home, got mum to write the note, and won it by about probably 150 metres. Just absolutely towed up the opposition at school.
Fantastic,
and was able to, so I beat all the years 4, 5s and 6s and 7s, primary school back in the day. Yeah. So then, they let me go to the inter-school and compete against the other local schools, and I just got picked for second, or I came second.
Okay, yeah.
And the girl that beat me was had been chosen to go away in a state team to represent WA in the 800 metres. So everyone was like, how's this kid in year 3? Matching motors with, 11-year-old. Yeah. So that definitely, I still remember that like it was yesterday.
Man, that is quite the leap in age groups, and the power of a parent note as well. They can they can work wonders, the parent notes.
Yeah, and it wasn't forged, that's for sure.
Yeah. Now, growing up, what age did you think, I really want to have a crack at athletics? Obviously, year 3, it's a bit young to be thinking like that, but was there an age where you went, I'm going to do this and really put all my eggs in that basket sporting-wise?
Yeah, I think, as I mentioned earlier, I loved athletics and I realised that I was good at it. When in 1984, I remember the LA Olympics were on, I saw the opening ceremony and it just captured me. It was just mesmerising. And I said to my parents, one day I want to go to the Olympics. Yeah. But obviously, as a kid who's, 9 years of age, there's a lot of water to go under the bridge. So, I just played lots of sports. I sort of kept up with the athletics, and it obviously got more serious, and I got my first coach when I started high school. But I kept playing lots of different sports. I loved any kind of sport, and that's how I passed my time.
Fantastic.
Perfect. It's Martin here, Sarah, so nice to talk to you. Let's go to 1994 and the first time that you represented Australia at the World Junior Championships. I suppose that the initial feeling of being selected would have been quite amazing. And what was it like to be on the world stage for the first time?
Yeah, look, pretty exciting to be picked in your first Aussie team. It was pretty surreal, and I had a lot of my close friends from WA that were chosen on that Australian team too. We trained together just down at UWA Sports Park, just behind HBF Stadium, and I think 3 of us got chosen from the same training squad. So to be there with friends as well was amazing. I think just being a kid from Perth, we were pretty lightly trained. going to that meet and rubbing shoulders with firstly just the other Australian athletes. I found out they were training twice a day. I couldn't believe, I'd never heard anything so absurd that people train twice a day. We were probably training 3 times a week, 4 times a week. But a lot of the kids from eastern states were training twice a day, 5, 6 days a week. So that blew my mind, and it really did open my mind up to, open my eyes up to what you needed to do eventually to be one of the best in the world. I think I was really overawed to be there, meeting the other Aussies and then just being, meeting people from other countries and just seeing how good they were. I think I was a little bit starstruck, to be honest, and it was an amazing learning experience. I didn't compete that well. I was totally probably undertrained, to be honest, but not that I regret it, because I'd rather be a good senior athlete than a good junior athlete.
Perfect. I've been lucky enough to go to the Olympics, but unfortunately I was just a spectator. I was in at the Athens Olympics, but you've obviously, as we've mentioned, you've had the privilege of representing Australia 3 times. I always get excited from a spectator's point of view watching the opening ceremony and seeing all the athletes come out for the very first time. Could you explain how, I suppose, that felt, and was it the same for every Olympics that you went to?
Yeah, look, my first Olympics was Sydney Olympics in 2000. So to have a home Olympics as your first Olympics, it was just an amazing feeling and the realisation of a dream. So you've got all these emotions to walk out into the stadium with all the other Aussie athletes, and walk out onto the track to do your lap, and the whole crowd was basically full of Australians, like 90,000 Australians, just, the loudest cheers. It was a realisation of a dream and a feeling that I can't even explain. And if I could bottle that feeling, or if everyone else in life could experience what I felt that day, I would just, it was totally amazing. Too hard to explain.
Yeah.
When you go, athletics is always on towards the end of an Olympic program, so the swimming's typically first and then the athletics. So the other 2 Olympics that I went to, Athens and Beijing, we weren't allowed to go to the opening ceremonies.
Okay.
Because we were on at the end of the program, they think it's too distracting for you to be in the village for that length of time. So going to the opening ceremony, sitting around for a week or so before you then compete. So when it was the Athens Olympics, we were in Italy, just on a training camp, watching it on telly. It's just a weird feeling. And then Beijing was the same. We're in Hong Kong, just watching it on TV.
Well, I've heard about the village, so I probably understand the coach's thoughts, and we might talk about that a little bit later. It was in the Beijing Olympics where you achieved your best result. I think made it to the semi-finals. And therefore, was that probably where you felt most satisfied with your performance? Do you think that's when you were at your best at the Olympic Games?
Yeah, look, I was really gutted with my performance in Beijing, although it was my best performance at an Olympics. I was in the prime of my career. I went in ranked number 5, I think, in the world. So, I had high expectations of myself. To get through the rounds in my event at a major meet is actually totally different, a different experience. It's almost like a different sport in a way. I was very good at time trialing. So, if there was a pacemaker in a race, once the gun went, if I could run as hard as I could, I was number 5 in the world. But when it comes to a championship race where it's very cat and mouse, people are trying to conserve energy to get through to next round. So they're typically a little bit slower race, and then people will sprint at a certain point. That was not my strength. I didn't have great top-end speed, but I could grind out a hard, fast pace for a long time.
Yeah. Okay.
So I often had to go into those races. In Beijing, I started to just push the pace. I had to kind of go to the lead, sit on the leader's shoulders and try and push the pace. And it's a hard way to do it. So I was gutted. I was the first person to miss the final. And, I was did a lot of soul searching after Beijing.
Yeah, no, perfect. Statistically, I suppose I've looked at your times, 2006, 2007, and obviously around that time you were running, wonderful times. You achieved a silver medal at the Commonwealth Games in Melbourne, a bronze at the World Cup in Athens, and another bronze at the World Athletics Finals in Stuttgart, all in the 1500. How did it feel, getting the opportunity to stand on the podium representing your country?
Yeah, look, amazing. Look, to be, I've broken lots of records before, but to have like a medal in your hand that you can, I can show to people, I've shared it, with lots of school kids. I've done talks at schools. I can show my kids to have something tangible to show people what you achieved. It's pretty special. To be able to do it in Melbourne was great because I had a lot of family flew over for it as well. A lot of my friends were there. So yeah, it's pretty special to actually have a medal, and it's something that I'm really proud of.
No, perfect. Commonwealth Games or Olympic Games? I love all sport. I get excited over all of these. But for you as an Australian athlete, is there a clear difference for you between the two?
Look, there is. I think depth-wise, there's no denying. There's an Olympics, the quality is it goes much deeper. In saying that, athletics is such a broad sport. You've got shot putters and you've got pole vaulters and sprinters and distance runners. Distance running and middle distance running is pretty tough at the Commonwealth Games because you've got, the African nations, the Kenyans were always quite strong in my event, whereas you get, events such as pole vault, the Africans don't pole vault, the Caribbeans don't pole vault. Men's sprinting, or, sprinting in general at Com Games is tough because, you've got all the Caribbeans and, so it's really a bit of a mixed bag between the events.
So it's sport specific.
Totally. So, for me, there's no denying, like, when I was at my peak, the Russians were very hard to beat.
Yeah.
The Russians weren't at the Commonwealth Games, but in saying that, the Russians all got banned in 2008, so there's stories for other days. But, look, the Com Games, to get the silver medal, it was a pretty quality field, so, pretty proud of that result for sure.
Excellent. Now, the last question from me, Luke's got a couple more to go, but elite athletics, I suppose, in Australia, do you think that we're heading in the right direction? The pathways, are well organised and equipped, to, I suppose, get the most of what we have here? And are there any athletes that you know of that you'd say we should all look out for in next year's Olympic Games?
Yeah, look, it's a tough one. I think athletics, we're always kind of the battlers of all the sports. It's hard to attract people to athletics. It requires a lot of, individual motivation. I did probably 75% of my training completely on my own, guided by a coach, but you're having to do a lot of runs and training basically, totally on your own. So you need to be very self-motivated. A lot of people that are just raw good athletes, especially guys, get lured away to other sports where there's a lot more money involved. You don't unfortunately make much money from track and field, so we do lose a lot of potentially good athletes. In saying that, we have some fantastic young athletes that are coming through the pathways. The pathways could be better. I definitely agree because there's a lack of money in the sport to set up really good pathways. If only we had as much money as AFL, I sort of, think that we could be doing a lot better. But, there's a lot of exciting young athletes coming through. So the Olympics next year, I'd definitely be looking out for, the men's pole vault, Kurt Mulcahy. We've got some great young distance runners coming through. There's quite a few. There's too many to mention, to be honest. But we do have a great spread of athletes, and I feel that every Olympics we discover a new star as well, so it's always exciting to see who that's going to be.
Excellent. Now, Sarah, we talk a fair bit at Hale, and particularly to our boys, about what makes a great team player and a great teammate. Now, even in an individual sport, for the big meets, you come together as a team. Were there people that, you look up to and learnt from in relation to that, how to be a great teammate in athletics?
Yeah, I think we spent so much time away in Europe before, like a major meet. So we would be based somewhere, say, for example, Cologne in Germany. We'd go and stay there, rent an apartment. He'd be living there for 3-4 months. So, I got really close to one of the long jumpers. I just got by chance roomed with her, Bronwyn Thompson. She was, fantastic long jumper. So you kind of learn to support each other because it is quite a lonely sport, but you have to almost become like a little team to support each other because you're living away from home. So, we would, support each other, go watch each other train, try and, give as much encouragement and support as possible. Yeah, it is tough because within athletics, like I mentioned before, it's such a broad sport. We was complete. I didn't have a lot in common with a shot put thrower, but you know what? We all got along, and we all spent as much time and stayed in contact. And when we're at different meets throughout Europe, and you'd get there and look at the list of names and see there are a few other Aussies there, you just immediately bonded and were there to support each other.
Yeah. Okay. Now hopefully this will be going out to about 800 or 1,000 boys, and they'll want to ask this question. So particularly the Olympic Games and also the Commonwealth Games, like how much do you interact with athletes from other countries now? Like if I was personally at the 2008 Beijing Games, I would just be spending most of my off time trying to find Kobe Bryant, who was there, or I'm a big NBA fan. I'd just be walking around to see where Kobe is. Or I think Usain Bolt was there, and maybe Federer, like all these, world global superstars. What was it like? Like, did you bump into anyone like that, or have some photos? Like, did you get that starstruck moment at all?
Yeah, look, I think Kobe Bryant was probably staying in a hotel somewhere. I think, some of the ultra famous, athletes were staying not in the village, but certainly Usain Bolt, we used to see him on the circuit as well in Europe, but he was, we were amazed that he would eat McDonald's quite frequently in the dining hall. We were all eating our, salads and protein and, just trying to be as healthy as possible. But yeah, the amount of McDonald's that I saw him eat was quite disgusting. One of my flatmates in Beijing, she had the hots for Novak Djokovic.
Okay.
And so we saw she's a pretty brave girl. She said, I'm going to go up and see if I can get a date with him. And so she went up and started chatting to him, and I felt mortified for it because he knocked her back, but it was pretty funny. Yeah.
Oh, well, every week you're at the Olympic Games. Now you are involved as head coach of Perth Running Club. If there are Hale boys out there, this might have piqued their interest, or good athletes that have only played team sports before but might want to go down and the athletics path. Tell us a bit of information about the Perth Running Club.
Yeah, it's pretty much for younger kids and for older adults. So I don't have anything set up at the moment. I used to coach elite athletes, but or people that were trying to really improve themselves in that kind of teenage year group. But certainly, I like to say that I'm a good sounding board for anyone out there who wants to be pointed in the right direction in Perth, where you could maybe go to get some training sessions or some advice. I'm certainly a great person to push you in the right direction, point you in the right direction. So anytime, I'm open for someone to email me, ask me questions, and just set you up with someone that can help you get to the next level. No
worries. Now, just a last question, and on a lighter tone, and we've asked everyone we've spoken to this question. It's mainly about meat pies. So as background for you, Sarah, we have Pie Day here on Tuesdays, which is probably not the healthiest thing, but that's all right. All the boarders come up, they get like a choice of 5 different pies, and the staff eat pies. And some of the stuff we see the boarders do with their pies is disgusting. That's the right word. Like they take the roof off, put sauce in. Some even put the sauce bottle all the way in, which is not very hygienic. How does Sarah Jamieson, if she does eat meat pies, let's assume you've at least had a couple, how do you eat a meat pie?
Well, I think it's disgusting to take the roof off, to be honest. Too messy, too much mess. I hate having mess on my hands, so pretty impatient person. Probably the smell of the pie would get me, so I just need to put some sauce on top and just get my teeth straight into it. I don't think there'd be any taking the roof off, that's for sure.
Fantastic, and that's the reason why they should listen to everything else you've said today, because you've got some strong values behind you. Now, Sarah, thanks for your time. On behalf of Martin, myself, and all the boys that are listening, thanks for giving up a little bit of time to tell us about your career and where you think athletics is now, and some of your experiences at the world's biggest sporting events. And we wish you and your family kind of the best of health for the next couple of weeks and months, and you're more than welcome around Hale anytime you want to be.
Oh, thanks very much, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much.